Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part two, the unexpected sequel of the Rain in Hell Q&A. Very happy to be back with you all today. Earlier today, we had a little bit of a challenge with some of the chat. That should be handled now, this time around. So hopefully none of that nonsense. But I want to make sure that we had a chance to answer everybody's questions. Didn't really get a chance to finish out all the questions this morning or this afternoon. So I thought, hey, why not have another little talk? Besides, I was just editing videos and that was getting super tedious, and I would much rather go talk to all of you. So at any rate, yeah, let's talk about the basic information. As before, for those of you not familiar, Rain in Hell just launched today. Available now, not a Kickstarter, not anything like that. You can get this game in your hands this minute. It is a fast, brutal, miniatures agnostic skirmish war game. It is 64 pages, contains everything you need for both standard play and campaign play right in here. You can get the PDF alone for $10, the PDF plus the book for $15. All the links are in the description to go check all that out, as well as a link to the website where or to the Rain and Hell website, which is what you see right over here on the screen right now. And so if you've got any questions about this, about the process, about how we got here, about anything in there, the rules, whatever you want, you can go ahead and ask those right now. That's the idea. All right. Okay. Crazy Horse said, I'm starting to think Tom isn't the real reason the shows don't start on time. I promise you it's Tom. This time it was just me getting stuff ready. Yes, there is slow mode on this time on the comments, but it's only once a second. That's just to stop bots. Like, it's the most minimal slow mode. You can still pose all your questions regularly. It's just you can't, it won't let anything post more than once per second, which only bots would be able to do anyways, unless you're like the fastest typer in the West. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so people ask, like, where are the demons? Or somebody asked, where are the demons in the artwork from? So, yeah, so it's 3D printed. Archvillain is one. Adam had mentioned some of the other ones earlier. Some of that stuff in there is Creature Caster. There's even a few, like, Mantic demons in there and stuff like that. So, just kind of all around. Lots of 3D prints. It's a rich source of where to get this. Crazy Horse says, question, why was I not contacted to consult on terrain? It's a good question. In all seriousness, congrats. This looks really cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So Bishop says, I had one question. If memory serves, the max warband is 10 dudes. But what was the average size of warband you guys took while testing? So, I mean, we did test it separate at different sizes. But up to then including the 10. But most of the testing was done around 7, 8, 9. So kind of early doors. In other words, like what you would have after assumingly 1, 2, 3, 4 games, right? Because it would take you a while to build up the souls to recruit that many additional demons to hit your max. But we did play at all sizes. But I think I didn't really notice a difference because, it's most of the time you're going to be like, if you have one or two more demons, it can make a difference tactically, of course, because you have more pieces under your control to move around, right? Which gives you more versatility. But it doesn't necessarily equate to a direct advantage in the nature of the objectives because the way you sort of take and hold in a lot of these things. So we didn't see that it came out hugely different, even when there was deltas during testing, if that makes sense. Okay, so YYZ says, haven't had a look at the rules yet. What's the elevator pitch for a mechanical hook that will make me want to play this instead of Frostgrave or something? It's a great question, YYZ. Yeah, what's the differentiator, right? Yeah, absolutely. What sets this apart, and part of the reason that we made this game, is from a mechanical level. Because, I mean, I can talk about story, but every game has their own story and theme. So I understand your question, right? You're saying what's the mechanical thing? I think that the dynamic activation system that's in there allows for a more tactical, adaptive style on the gameplay. The activation system is very unique and has the ability to be both random, but in a transparent way that sets up known runs and series of advantages and disadvantages throughout the turn that has you needing to think ahead, plan ahead to achieve success. At the same time, I would say that there's also a great mechanical hook in the fact that the core mechanics, I mean, there are 3 stats your creatures have: move, life, and combat. And that drives everything. And yet there's a richness to it. So it's a very simple set of mechanics that we use to sort of base everything off to. Part of what I did when I started was how much can we just grind everything down and work from the simplest possible platform, right? How much can we really like reduce what's necessary here to the absolute minimum, so it's very quick and easy to learn, and then use the exceptions of the design throughout the process to enable people to make smart, interesting decisions during the game that lead to the difference in victory, right? Where skill will make the difference rather than what's sitting necessarily on the rules layer, I suppose. So I tried to like, this is way overstated. I mean, I'm not saying I wrote this, but my goal in writing the rules was an Othello like sort of system, right? A minute to learn, a lifetime to master kind of concept. So that was really my goal with the rules, and then at the same time having a unique activation system to then facilitate this very play, counterplay, think ahead, tactical play. So there you go. That would be my mechanical hook. That was probably a long answer, but I wanted to get into it for you. Darius, can you talk about some of the demonic philosophies? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So there are 6 philosophies in the game. And each one, to me, needed to represent something that I thought would be, like, that had philosophical roots in something I thought beings could logically believe, if that makes sense. Like, my major was philosophy in college. I like philosophy. That's what my degree is partially in. And I think that philosophy is just really interesting. And you know, like, when you get to the root of why do people believe things, I find that to be a fascinating concept. And so when I thought about each of these, it had to be somewhere where, okay, if I'm a demon and I have some kind of set of experiences, and I live in this world that I live in, this dimension, what are the things that I would naturally believe? Or that I could come to believe, I suppose. And so the Lords of Hell, for example, are effectively, they're a sort of restorative party, and you see this a lot. They want to go back to when things were good, right? You know, that's a very sort of real-world human concept. And I mean, all philosophies are, all of this is somewhat rooted in humans. Obviously, I have no idea what some otherworldly entity would think like, so I have to write these like humans. And, you know, hell used to be this pretty orderly place. I mean, it was awful and terrible, of course, but it was at least ordered, and there was a power structure and a hierarchy to it. And that's what they want to return to, right? They want that social order to return, as opposed to the chaos. And so, again, that felt very believable. The Earthbound, on the other hand, are those who have looked at this and said, you know, this is way too much work. What we need to do is instead get out of here and get to where we should have been all the time. The souls are over on Earth. That's where all the juice is. What are we wasting our time for here? Let's take the fight over there, right? So again, just why waste time? Let's get to the solution, right? We can sort of technology our way out of this problem. Yeah. The technology being open the portal somehow. Like, there's a bit of, in the Earthbound's mind, there's a bit of like step 1, collect souls, step 2, step 3, profit, right? They kind of have a bit of an underpants gnomes philosophy. The Demented are people who are just kind of anarchists, right? They like the chaos. They see it as like, because they, you know, maybe they were on the bottom in the old structure in hell, or maybe they just enjoy the suffering and the chaos. I mean, they are demons after all, so it wouldn't be that hard to imagine. So to them, it's this is the ideal state, and they see no reason to change it. Like, no, this is how it should be. We finally got here. Status quo is good. The brokers are people who profit off of war, right? I mean, that's just one of the oldest things in humanity. I mentioned earlier, like in Mad Max, the sort of leaders of the three towns in the Fury Road. That is to say, like one of them has water, one has bullets, and one has gasoline, right? And so, like they're war profiteers. Like it's the sort of easiest concept to imagine because there's lots of stories of that in the real world. The judges are an interesting one because they're sort of exploiting of the metaphysical rules of hell. There are things like demons self-actualize, and hell is guided by these different rules and sort of how things run. It is an alternate dimension. And so they're effectively the scientists of their worlds, right? At the same time as they're the lawmakers, because they're trying to exploit these sort of the rules of the road, the rules of the world they live in for power, right? So they're kind of a scientist analog, only in the fact that there's no science in the world. So instead, they're using like the metaphysical laws of hell to do that. And then finally, the empty. The empty are like the ultimate nihilists, because the empty don't believe that anything should exist anymore. Like, this is a failed experiment. Hell has failed. So the only proper solution is blow it all up. Like, end everything. They seek after oblivion, right? So that's kind of where they're going with it. So yeah, that's the 6 philosophies. I hope y'all find that interesting. And each of those grants their own bonuses, mechanical and such in the game, and opens up different possibilities, comes with their own devout, all that kind of thing. So the cabals end up feeling very different, depending on which one you play. Okay. Let's see. Sean says, oh, no, sorry, hold on. I need to back up a little bit. Okay. These are great. Keep the questions coming. If you've got any questions, go ahead and please bring those on. Alan Thomas said, how much did Planescape and Vampire the Masquerade influence the flavor? Love the sort of clan faction philosophy style. Also needed. Yeah, I mean, both of those were certainly, thoughts, like previous games I have enjoyed. I don't know that anything about what they specifically have influenced me in any great way. By that, what I mean is I don't know that, with this, I was seeking to emulate in any great fashion anything that they did, other than the concept that having a tribe for your avatar in the game lends a Y, and a Y motivates you to be attached to it, I guess. So that was kind of like, I liked what functionally those things did in those games, as well as others, by the way. It's certainly not the only one. You could say like BattleTech, and whether you're a member of like the clan or the houses in the inner sphere or a mercenary company, right? There's lots of identities you could belong to, and those had a huge effect on, kind of your loyalties and what you saw in your philosophies and things like that. So it's kind of all of that. All those games I love. The games I really love let you seat yourself in the world. And by the way, this is becoming more and more a thing. Current edition D&D and like the Forgotten Realms focuses very heavily on you being a member of some kind of faction, right? Because again, it's going to inform you, give you contacts, give you motivation, so on and so forth. Okay. Sean says, are you planning on expanding Reign in Hell? And if yes, what is the directions you are excited to expand in? I mean, we've talked about the possibility of doing like a little solo play PDF just to put out there that would be free. It wouldn't be something we charge for, so we can facilitate that. I mean, I have ideas, is what I'll say, for what it could happen, but I don't know if I would do that. We would do that anytime soon, is my honest answer. Like, I don't want to get everyone's hopes up. What Adam and I have said to each other is we love making games together. This was tremendous fun. It's a great partnership. I absolutely love working with Adam. And so, he's like just a really, really fantastic partner. And so, frankly, what I think I've missed my whole life in creating these. And so we know we want to make more games, but I don't know that I want to just sit here and expand this one game. We have lots of ideas for games that could feel very different. So I guess, the question would be to all of you, are you all interested? You can throw it in the chat, or if you're watching this later in the comments, are you all interested in seeing us explore other concepts, other games, other mechanical derivations and stuff like that, in the future? Would you like to see, would you support us if we make other, hopefully high quality games that are, completely different settings and stuff like that? I think there's so much to explore. There's so many corners of the miniature world that aren't heavily mapped out that I think we could really do some fun stuff with. So that's where I'd like to go. But I mean, that being said, I've got some fun ideas for expansions of this if we get the chance. Okay. So let's see. Bishop says, I'm excited for the potential of more scenarios that are solo play than just the one in the core book. I couldn't convince any of my D&D group to play any war games. Sure. Yeah, I understand. Like I said, that's why I want to kind of have a solo play thing. If we did it, the idea would actually be I would create a solo AI for the monsters to play, or sorry, for you to play as the enemy. And then the idea would be you could play any of the scenarios, right? And turn everything on. Robert Fanelson, Vince, why are equal combat ratings a 3+ and not a 4+? That coupled with the 6s to defend seems like it was designed to make the game be quick. Was that the goal? It's a great question. So what he's referring to there is, in this game, if your combat score determines both your bonus to hit and the number of dice you roll to deal damage. And so if your combat score is 7, for example, and your enemy's combat score is 7, then you roll 7 dice, and every 3 is a point of damage. So the question becomes, why did we put it on 3s and not 4s? So quickness wasn't actually the goal, although it is a nice side benefit. The goal was actually to tilt the game toward offense. And that really is derivative of sort of the original guiding principle. When I thought about what this game was, this game is very metal. It's demons. It's hell. It's brutal. Like, these are one of the things we actually started with is sort of like a word cloud, right? This kind of thoughts of like, what is this thing? And then those derived into sort of guiding principles that had to set up all the rest. Every rule you write has to inform back up to those guiding principles. And when we wrote that, one of the reasons I made that mathematical move was because it does just tilt towards offense, right? And it let me play with numbers, and statistically it makes a huge difference in how much damage the average thing deals when you go 2, 3, 4 as opposed to 3, 4, 5. There's also it also makes the game more, how do I want to say this? More fun, I guess? Because there's less chances that you roll against somebody and go, oh, okay, I guess like 1 damage, right? Like, you always are sort of getting the reward of, oh, I dealt damage, I did something, right? Now, at the same time, the defense is always there, but because it's only on 6s, you bring a different psychological anchoring expectation to the roll. So, like, if you roll your defense dice and get 1 or 0, you're like, yeah, okay, sure. That's kind of what I expected. It's not out of the box. It's fine. If you roll your defense dice and get, like, 2 6s, you're like, wow, that was an amazing roll, right? So it sort of changes where those moments of surprise and positive psychological utility come from in the experience during the game when you move the numbers around like that. And it leads to a more fun experience. It also, as I said, on a sideway, leads to a more offensive focused, combat heavy, faster experience, yes. But that also means that you have to be, smart with your pieces, because you can lose them easily, right? Like games where you just hit on anything and nothing, it's just like, or sorry, where you can't hit on anything and all of that, like people could just run out the open and who cares because they're not going to die, right? So there you go. Okay. Mini hobby therapy, yay! Bonus Q&A. All right. What was the biggest challenge in developing Reign in Hell? Run into any major hurdles? Not really. I mean, no. Honestly, like, it takes a while to make a book. It's a really intense thing because you write a lot more than you end up using, and you have to write a lot as it is. I don't know how many words I ended up writing for this, but keep in mind you write the whole book multiple times, right? Because you develop the initial thing, and then then you write out concepts for everything in the book, like, okay, well, what do we want demons to do? What do they look like? Okay, what are the categories? All right, so we sketch ideas, and Adam and I would go back and forth, and I'd start writing stuff up, and then we'd change that and go that, and then, there's a lot of, like, back and forth and rewriting, and before you ever then, okay, now we'll write the real thing. Great. Now we've got something to play with. Okay, so we test that. All right, how's that look? What do we need to change? We rewrite that again. It's really just the major hurdle is time because I was still doing all the channel. I mean, you've seen I haven't like not done videos for a while. I still do all my videos and everything like that. And I mean, I still work like 50 hours a week. So it's so time has been the major challenge in being able to write it. So I think that's probably the biggest hurdle. Um, but it was actually a lot of fun. Like I really, really like writing games and writing game rules. So I didn't in any way find it onerous. I just, some shorter nights of sleep, I guess. What are those big miniatures from? Particularly that big red devil. If you mean the one with the wings, that's Archvillain Games. If you mean this guy who's on screen right now, that guy is a 3D print from Lord of the Print, I believe is where he's from. Impending Duff. Hey Vince, congrats on the game release. Oh, thanks. Absolutely. Very glad. Night Kids, good evening. How you doing, Night Kids? Okay. Jeffrey, congratulations on the game release. Thank you. Tune says I just put my question in the comments, part one, which is fine. I will still answer everything up there too. I just thought since that last one, we got ended by a horrible bot issue that just would not go away. It was the worst bot thing I've ever seen in the history of YouTube. Happened earlier today, so I've never seen such a thing before. And turns out that the auto hide inappropriate comments is turned off by default in streaming. I've never run into it or needed it, I guess. Maybe they just changed the switch recently, but it's turned on now. So I mean, the bot was like it was really horrible. So it just ruined the stream at the end. And so I wanted to do this for all of you because I want to make sure if people have questions, that's like, well, I'd buy the game, but I don't know something, or hey, I just bought it and I've got this question. I want to make sure we get them answered. I want to help people out. So there you go. Jeffrey Crowder, are there any plans to do a playthrough video? Yes, indeed. Adam will be putting something up on his channel this weekend with sort of a sample playthrough so you can see the basic mechanics in action. And then he's going to do some bat reps in the future. I know maybe Doug from 2 Plus Tough had mentioned doing a bat rep as well. So there you go. Tactica Cat, any ideas for non-demon faction philosophies in the future? Perhaps angels or some other metaphysical groups? Yeah, maybe not in the exact way you think, but yes. Very much so. Like, I do have a thought on where we could go to expand this, and I'm really excited about it, and I think it would be really, really fun. And yes, it would open up it would open up the field of play considerably. So, but that's for the future, and we'll see what happens. Okay, people saying yes, they would be into other things, so that's cool. Yes, YYZ says I've also seen Rosewater's 20 years of MTG talk. Letting people find a drive in the game is hugely important. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That talk is like a game designer's bible. Like, if you have any interest in writing any kind of rules, you should go watch that video. It's Mark Rosewater's 20 years of what I learned from 20 years of Magic, and it's absolutely incredible. Let's see. Okay. People saying, yeah, they think it'd be really cool. That's great. I'm very glad to hear that. Like to see more single player stuff and everything. It's a good note. We've had a fair amount of questions for that. So, well, that's something I definitely will take into account as we look to the future. Okay, Tune says, I had a few questions that may have been missed, either by me or not asked yet. One, is there any sort of underdog bonus for campaigns? How to keep one player from running away with it? Yeah, great question. So, no, there is not an underdog bonus for campaigns. It was something I thought about. Do we need to have, does there need to be some kind of, strict way that suddenly if you're an underdog, that, it's compensating for that in some way if you're on the lower side of the thing. And in the end, I decided against it for a couple of reasons. One, I hope people play together in the campaign. Two, you actually evolve pretty slowly in the game. You don't see a huge difference. Now, if somebody's way up there and all their demons are at 25 to 30 experience, and somebody comes in with 0, of course that's a gap. and is going to be hard to overcome. But what I saw in testing was if people were just some distance apart, it actually didn't really make much of a difference. So it felt like I would be in that case where somebody's so distant. It feels like the right answer is, well, you're not just, somebody start over or give them that amount of experience or something. Like it seems like there's a better way to solve that than sort of artificially kneecapping one person or blowing this person up when there's distance only when it only seemed to matter when they were that far apart. So that's kind of why I decided against it. How many games should a campaign ideally run over? Is there a sweet spot? So I wrote it with the concept that a full campaign would be like if you sort of were playing through, it'd be kind of 10 games, but you could play a lot more, a lot less. But I think an average campaign run is about 10 games, which I think that's, for most of us, that's actually pretty aspirational to get 10 games in a campaign. But that would kind of take you to the, like, you're getting a maximal number of upgrades, probably. You've recruited everybody you want to recruit. You've got a good deal of artifacts. You've got you've got lesser demons fully evolved up. Maybe you recruited a couple superiors, that kind of thing. Like you've probably explored most everything you can after somewhere in the like 10-ish games area. Any recommendations for running greater demons from other miniature lines that are well above 60 millimeter base sizes? Because there'd be an add-on rule for models to help mitigate the problems with running them. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the answer is that you really don't. I'll say that like when bases get much bigger than 60 mil in this game, things do get wonky because it's just so big. My honest answer is like I know we all want to use every fig, but sometimes the game just it runs better if you're staying within that cohort. You can be pretty fluid within it. And even then, I wouldn't put many people on 60s just because of like the size of the game board can get overwhelmed pretty quick. Like using those things as those big demons as something like the beast in the game is great. Because that then makes that's what we're doing when we tested the beast scenario, we would use one of the greater demons. Or if you have one of those and you're really determined to use it, just put them on a smaller base. That can be certainly something you can do. But like if you bring in something like a chariot base or something like that, a 120 by 92, it's going to really be distorting to what's going on in the game, is what I'll say. Like it's not, I'd love to give you a different answer, but it's kind of where it is. If the model I have is on an asymmetrical base, such as a cavalry base, how would you measure those to see if they fall within the suggested sizes? Whatever the longest length is. And that's fine. We actually played with like squares, and I actually did have somebody on like a sort of rectangular base. We tested with, there was a couple of those. Just happened to be in the mix people were using. That doesn't make much difference. Again, just use the longest size, because that's what's going to be relevant. As long as, like, what ends up happening is the sort of physical space they occupy is what ultimately matters. So if it's in like the 25 to 40 range, it's really the sweet spot. If you've got one or two people on 50 or 60, everything's fine. No issues. No drama llama there. So like if you've got a cavalry base or something, it's no big deal. There you go. Hope I answered all those questions. Okay. Just purchased finally gives me a reason to buy Corn Demons. Yes, absolutely. Sam. Hey, what's up, Sam? Hey, buddy. Hope you're doing well up there, man. I'm going to get up and see you sometime soon. I hope everything's fantastic up in Wisconsin. Mini Hobby Therapy, thanks for the response. I'm not sure how you do all you do like 24 hours in a day. Because I'm doing this stream now. One of the reasons I'm doing this stream now is because it has been a thorn in my paw for the past 6 hours, the way that stream ended. I can't leave anything unfinished. I have a problem. And like when something is in my mind, I'm like lasered in on it and I can't stop. That helps when writing rules or painting minis or in something like this. And I didn't feel like I got to end that one earlier on my terms, and it just sat there and it clawed at the back of my brain for hours. And I was like, so, I'm very like driven, I guess, is the answer. I am determined to by the time when I die, I look back and go, I didn't waste a minute. Not one. So there you go. Alan Thomas, thoughts on creating philosophy-specific story campaigns, similar to Warcry in this case? That is a really interesting question, Alan. I don't think I have any answer for you. But that would be an awesome blog post. I'm going to make a note about that. Give me a moment, Alan, because I think that would be fantastic. So everybody knows there is a blog on this site as well over here. So you can actually see the, I don't know if they're down here. Actually, I'm sorry, it's over on this page right here. Yeah, here you go. So here's some of the blogs that have come up. And here's kind of me talking about activation and stuff like that. So if you want to see rules, and I'm always looking for good blog topics to explore. So that is a really, really great one. I will think on that, and maybe I can write something up. Philosophy specific campaign blog. Sorry, that's a great idea. I don't have any thoughts on it. I honestly hadn't thought about it before, but what a cool idea. So thank you, Alan. I'll look and see what I can do there. Okay. Did you guys need a dramatic voiceover for the how to play video? I mean, we've got Adam. Have you heard that man's voice? Like his dulcet, sultry tones are exactly what we need. I think the number one thing that holds me back from success on YouTube is my awful voice. So, but here we are. we play with the cards we're dealt. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Are the creature caster minis an appropriate scale for this game? Yeah, especially like the matriarchs and stuff like that. Yeah, they're perfect. They're perfect. And then like your devout could be one of the sort of bigger ones, but not the huge ones, I guess, because there's sort of three sizes. There's like the matriarchs, the something, and then the kings and queens. Whatever that middle one is, could be a devout, because they actually come on like 60s, and you could put them on or 60s or 50s or whatever. So they're pretty much in the ballpark for the really big mini. And all of the different matriarch sizes, the 40 mil base sizes, those are perfect. I actually used a bunch of those in my warband. So yeah. Okay. Mr. Skullface, do you need sculptors for your game? Not really. We're not super interested in, like, it's miniatures agnostic, and we're not super interested in aligning with any single miniature. Like, we want to let people explore their creativity. That's part of the fun, right? Now, I'm not saying in the future we might not do a game with a miniatures line. I'm not going to rule anything out. But for this one, and probably for several games to come, I would think we'll stick pretty miniatures agnostic, and we are going to try to work with a couple 3D printers or something like that to get a discount out there, so people can be directed and at least have some options for some demons to go to. Great, great Unclean would make a good terrain for this, something to fight around. Yeah, absolutely, sure, 100%. You could just use them as a big piece of terrain. Stephen Wayne, what type of world do the humans who killed the Directorate live? Fantasy, alt history? That's a great question, Stephen. It's a question that I know the answer to, and I'm not going to tell you. Because part of that is wrapped up in future future thoughts for this game. But yes, that is in our background docs that we have written. There is lore that is not present in this book that we have written up, but I am not going to tell you what the answer is. I will let you decide what you think it is and create your own answer for that question, and then you can maybe, when the time comes, you'll see if you were right or wrong. Okay. Callum says, looks like a great game. Shame about the max base size. Wanted to use the purple sun for the base of my leader. I mean, you could use the purple sun. You just need to not put it on its base. The purple sun itself is fine. Just put it on like a 50 mil base or a 40 mil base. I don't even know if it's that much bigger, and you're fine. Just have him float up there. That'd be easy. Any plans to host somewhere we can share cabals? Somebody had said they're setting up both a Facebook group and a Reddit. So check that out. Once I get that information, I will certainly share that out. So yes, I know there are already places out there where that stuff will be able to be done. Okay. Sam says, what is the best way to manage what special abilities do? Yeah, sure. So, in the game itself, it's not like we tried to keep special abilities pretty contained. So that is to say, your leader will have more special abilities than anybody else. The devout will be next, and then all of your minions by default have one special ability. And on the play sheet, so here on the website, there is a Cabal sheet. This actually comes in the PDF that you get as well, but we wanted to host it here also. You'll notice that like the leader demon has this space for like multiple abilities or stuff like that. Whereas when you get down to the minions, they have kind of two spots, right? Essence or relic or special or special. They start with basically one ability. So for example, right, the Mephit can move 3 extra inches when he uses running skirmish. Okay, which is just when you activate a demon, you get to choose between 3 different modes of taking your turn. Okay, which is charging, running skirmish, or all out. Okay, and those impact like how you can move and when you fight and stuff like that. And so the Mephit's ability works when he running skirmish. He gets 3 extra inches. Okay, cool. That's it. That's what you have to remember for your Mephit, right? Now, until he gains an essence or is handed a relic or something, that's it, right? And so those upgrades come slowly and intentionally because I want it to be something where you organically develop it. You know what your minis do, you've comfortable with them, you've internalized it, and now we introduce a little bit more complexity. This guy gets an item, this guy gets an essence. A little more complexity. You know, and okay, you've internalized that. This guy gets, and so on and so forth, right? And so that's the basic concept of the thing. But yeah, like tracking them on here, I promise you, like very quick into the game, you will remember all of you'll remember what all your guys do because the single special ability on the minion demons is so kind of connected to what they do. Like the Slaughter Fiend wants to go all out. The Tentacle Beast gives a penalty for people near him. The Mephit moves extra when he's running skirmishes. The Spine Demon gets a bonus when he charges, right? Like it's sort of like it very much will connect. You'll connect A to B, and okay, this is the thing this guy does, and then it'll kind of be there and pretty straightforward. As to the leader and the devout, who are the people who start with more, stuff. They are, it's kind of like you have to just spend a little more time looking at them. They still don't tend to be overtly complicated. It's 2 or 3 special abilities, really, is what it boils down to. And I thought a lot about how we structured them to try to make sure I wasn't overtaxing mentally the sort of knowledge. So one of the things I really, really, really tried to avoid in this game, I'm not going to say it's nowhere, but it's almost nowhere, is the idea of I activate a thing here, time passes in the game, I do that, I resolve that thing here. I don't like rules written like that. They're hard to remember, hard to forget. Okay? Sorry, hard to remember, easy to forget. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. So instead, it's trigger, thing happens, immediate sense, right? And so that's that's kind of where how I structured it. Camera says I don't have an awful voice. Oh well, thank you. I think I do, but I appreciate that. Axe Annex says the Facebook group is live. Oh cool. Somebody should share that to me so I can actually link it out in places and stuff and join it. It's probably would be a smart thing. Andrew Younger says, real excited for the game. I only own Nighthaunt. Can I use ghosts as demons? Seems silly to ask what feels wrong with not demons. Oh, heck yeah, you can, man. Andrew, absolutely. Like, tortured otherworldly spirits? Yes. Demons have a lot of different concepts of what they are across cultures, right? And so we really meant for this to be open because we want people to be able to create what they see as demons. Like, if you're talking about sort of Japanese mythology and lore, these things would look like ogres, right? Or they'd be oni or something, or whatever, or maybe even other things. Panalongans or whatever. I don't know. Like there's lots of different sort of demonic concepts across cultures, and certainly spirits of the damned fits pretty well. So no, I think you're A+ on that, man. No issue at all. And yes, as Bishop said, who said demons aren't spoopy souls of the dead? Given that this game also revolves heavily around souls, yes, I think they even make more sense. Casual Kraken. Bought the rules, still reading, but board size. 22 by 30 is the recommended default, but there's some information on there if you want to play with a different size board as well. Dog says, hey Vince, thanks for running another Q&A. Dog, will my FLGS be able to stock this book for resale? I mean, not really, because it's print on demand. So I mean, could they order a bunch of them and then resell them? Yeah, but I don't know why they would. I mean, if an FLGS wants to get in touch with us, I'm sure we could figure something out to get it in their hands. They could always, if there is an FLGS really interested, I'm happy to work with them and talk through what that would mean. So they can reach out to Adam or I, and we can. There's a contact email on the website, obviously, and I'm happy to have the conversation. So there you go. Sean Keefe says, I'm heading to sleep, but I've read the rules and they're pretty sweet. Well, that's awesome. Okay, says, Axe says, I posted your intro video in my comment. Fantastic, Axe. I'll check it out. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Do you have a PG number? Still looking. I'm not sure what you mean, casual. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what you're asking for there. Let's see. Playwright. Congratulations on a successful launch. I'm sure that was a hit of dopamine at the end of a finished project. We all have that rave you kept going, as well as 42. Thanks for you do. Look, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of down today, which is ironic. Like, I'll give you an insight into my mental state. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of down. Which is something that happens a lot at the end of like a really big project with a lot of build up. Oftentimes that happens, and there's so much put into it. And it wasn't that today wasn't great. It was great. People have really responded positively to the game. Like, everything went well, but your brain is a really funny, weird soup. It's just a mess. So I kind of was able to step outside that and go, wait, why am I feeling this sort of melancholy, right? Well, it's because it's kind of the thing of you put so much into like that moment where it happens that once the wave crests and begins to recede, right, you feel it pull the energy out of you. So it's just a challenge of like balancing your emotions like that. But honestly, coming here and chatting to all of you is unbelievably positive for my mental state. Like, I love this. I love talking to people. I love answering the comments. I love to see people's excitement for the game. And it's a huge mental positive for me to share with you guys. So I thank you all for being here. Okay, let's see. Sam Dunn says, thank you for covering that. I'm used to writing out a second packet for what things do, but if they're simple, I'll get to play more than write. Yes, it should be pretty straightforward. The goal was, like I said, to keep everything on there. I didn't feel the need to use a second sheet at any point in time, so hopefully that's what we've achieved. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Bishop, I wonder how much of Vince's supposed voice is used, or just the mic he uses. I use a nice mic. It's like I use a Blue Yeti microphone. No, it's mostly my voice. I've heard my voice in a lot of other ways. It sounds okay through my head, but then I hear it on any recorded device ever, and I'm like, oh god, why am I even talking? At any rate, Brian S. I really want a shirt with the Rain and Hell symbol on it. Any plans for other merch? Yeah, absolutely. We've got some of those art files. We're gonna see what we can do for that. Yes, that is absolutely in the plans. But I mean, we didn't want to like make a bunch of merch like minute one of the game if we launched this out and nobody cared. Right? Everybody's like, okay, like, cool, I guess. So it was kind of one of those things that we wanted to get it out there and see if people actually enjoyed the game and were interested, and then follow merch. But yeah, we've got some. We have had merch talks, and we've got some designs and stuff that we've already put together. So yes. Alan, notice there are no ranged attacks in the game. Is this balance concerns? No, not really. It was actually a very intentional choice. And the reason for it was because one of the conceptual elements of this game was fast, brutal combat. Like, this is, this hell dimension. Demons aren't technological. They don't have to be. They're all supernaturally tough and strong and fast. They didn't really have the need to develop guns. And so we purposely wanted to keep ranged attacks out of it because that has two things it does, and its balance is sort of, yeah, it's easier to balance things, which is true, but again, that's kind of a bonus thing. The actual reason was I wanted to make a game where like movement really mattered and how you tactically thought about things really mattered and positioning of your army really mattered and the activation system would feed into it in really interesting ways. And to do that, being focused on melee really facilitates a lot of that. If to affect the game, I have to go walk over somewhere and punch somebody, right? Then it has a real impact on how the game feels and how the game plays and how much you have to sort of think ahead and adapt to the evolving game situation. And so that was really the goal. So there's a thematic element of it feels more brutal and demonic, right? To have them in melee ripping each other asunder. Like that was a guiding principle. But also I wanted to facilitate that skirmish type combat that really had this tactical vibe to it, yeah? So, there you go. That was kind of so it was kind of serving two masters. And then a side effect is yeah, it is legitimately easier to balance a game without a bunch of ranged attacks, right? Okay, second on the shirt. Seems like some people are in for the shirt. Yep. Somebody answered the page size, more shirt stuff. Uh yes, your brain is meat with electricity in it. It would be strange if it didn't do weird stuff. Absolutely true. Uh, Donnie says, I just jump on it at the heartfelt moment. I love your content. Well, thank you guys. Like I said, really hanging out with you guys is awesome. Uh, okay. Donnie says, yes, in your head you hear way more bass. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, AF says, yeah, I know you feel it's like a dam holding all the energy and then finally giving way. Yeah, that's the end of any big project, right? You work on for months and months. Yep. That's how it is. What's the backstory on the new company name? Sure, yeah, Snarling Badger Games. It's Adam's company name. Adam lives in Wisconsin, so, Badger thing. And it was a name he made up and had a website for back in the 90s. He retired it from actual use several years back, like 2012 or something. Hasn't been in use for a while. But, he said, could we use your, uh, do you want to just use this company name? And yeah, sure, sounds good. It was fine. So I had no issue with it. Seemed like a cool name. Badgers are cool. So yeah, it was that much of a decision, I guess. I didn't really think too deeply about it. Robert Valenson. Why no superior demons in 200-point one-off game? Superior demons are really powerful in how they can affect the game, because their abilities are such that what they can do is really game altering, right? And so one of the reasons I wanted to keep them out of it was I wanted to keep them for sort of an end of the campaign thing, because even if you open up the points, they can be so dominating in their presence of what they can do that any other normal thing you bought wouldn't balance against it. So they just didn't work is basically the answer, right? Like graders aren't that much bigger or better. They're a little bit bigger or better, but they're okay. Points can kind of do the work to balance them out. But the superiors they're very, very impactful. And they ended up overshadowing everything. Now, later in the campaign, you can't recruit superior demons until you pass a certain gate in the campaign. Now, by that point in the campaign, you have acquired enough like essences and relics and special abilities that you've got enough outs and options that they can't unbalance the game anymore, because the normal demons have ramped up to meet them by that point, right? So that's why. Yeah, I mean, the superior demons are all awesome. Like, I truly love all of the demons we came up with in here. I really, really do. But the superior demons are just really fun. Like, in thinking about how they act and what they do and writing their rules, like, they all have that name that bequeaths sort of power, like the Shadow King, the Lord of Flame, and the Venom Queen, right? They all have, like, the titles. I wanted to make sure that as you went up, their titles kind of increased accordingly. So just from the name, you could tell where they sort of ranked. Like the graders are Torture Master, Serpent Knight, and Marquess de Winter, right? So yeah, that's why. There you go. Okay. Hey Vince, are there any model lines you recommend for the game or places to get good demon like STLs? Yes, many. So my mini factory is a gold mine for this. If you can handle STLs, just go there, type in the word demon, and you're gonna have a ton of options. Lord of the Print, which is where this guy comes from, is good. Archvillain has a whole demon set that is awesome. That works super duper well for this. The Frostgrave put out a demon set that actually works pretty nice, like little armored demons and stuff. If you're looking for like actual, not STLs, but just minis to buy, they have a couple demon sets out there. But yeah, like because it's a pretty wide open concept, if you can imagine it being demons, it can work. YYZ, you mentioned in part one that there are small things in the rules of any game you make that you're particularly proud of. Any cool examples? Yeah, sure. So like I'll give a, if you're asking me from games I write, because that's sort of the things that happen. Like when I wrote this game, this is a role playing game. This has been behind me for years, but this is the last game I wrote before this. It's called NGS. It's cut off camera, but that's what it's called, the narrative game system. And NGS, for example, in that it was the character creation that I was really proud of, because we came up with this really inventive collaborative character generation system that I actually still use in every role playing game I use to this day, and I really love it. And it was something that it really just worked. Like sometimes things just hit. In this game, it was the activation system. I think the activation system it between the mix of randomness, integrating something like what a bolt action style game or something like that does, but with transparency, so there is shared symmetrical knowledge, right? But not shared symmetrical skill in taking advantage of that knowledge. That's what I love about how it works. Skill against skill, because you can, like, you're both aware of the same facts. Nothing is hidden. Yet there will be a difference in how the two of you recognize what those facts are and act upon them and utilize them. So so yeah, there you go. Okay. Let's see. The twist is the name is from 1992. Snarling Badger, sure. I'm Brian says I'm playing with warbands now and wondering, did you make the demon types based on kinds of models available, or create the types before really seeing what was out there? I just created the types, honestly. I just thought about like what are the kinds of things I would want here, and actually their names went through several iterations. Some of them stuck throughout the whole thing. Like I wrote Slaughter Fiend was the first demon I wrote. He never changed his name. He was always the Slaughter Fiend. His stats moved a little, but he was like, because it's just such a concept, right? It's so easy. Like, yep, that's what we're going to need. We're going to need a guy called that in this brutal melee skirmish combat game. But yeah, I just kind of more thought of like what would be the different roles. I wanted to make sure each of them had some kind of reason for being balanced against each other. And then, the sort of names and stuff like that came separately. And we changed names several times. So, like some of them had really two names that were way too specific originally. And so I had to kind of back off that so the concept was broader. Oh, there you go. Bishop throwing out some great names. Yeah, Lord of the Print, Archvillain. Bestiarium. Nice. I wasn't familiar with that one. Oh, that's right. Yes, Titan Forge is doing a demon release on their Patreon next month. Good call. I forgot about that. Okay. Donnie Rongo, I'm thinking of using White Werewolf Tavern's undead stuff to do an undead lich style cabal. Sounds amazing to me. I see no reason why that doesn't fit. Naga Medusa style. Yes! That'd be amazing. I mean, Mariliths were always like my favorite demons, and, so there you go. Vince, do you think Kragnos will fit on a 60 mil base given his points? It's the only way he'll get use. Probably not. He seems like he's a little bit bigger than that. You'd have to get him on a big rock and then shrink it way down. Okay. Ghost Mutton, what's your writing process? Do you write lore or rules first, switching between the two as you go? Sure, talk about that. So we started with the concept, and all of the early discussion before we ever got to writing any rule or anything was sketching out the narrative first. Now, that's not every beat of the story. That's like, this is hell, and hell isn't what it used to be, and the directorate fell as the humans invaded and killed them all and closed the portal on the way out, or whatever, right? And these philosophies are here, and they matter, and it's, raging chaos across hell, and souls are the important currency, and the demons are trying to collect and gather souls for power and things like that. So all that was kind of thought of first, right? Then we sat down, and like I said, we did kind of a little word cloud experiment of the kind of things we wanted to have here, and then we wrote the guiding principles. And then from there, it's a little back and forth, right? So we would sit down and sketch out a concept like, okay, what do we want? What are the types of demons? And I don't mean like at the specific level, like what do demons look like in this game, right? Or what are the kinds of stats we need for things to happen? What do we want stats to look like, right? So we kind of throw out concepts, and we just did little back and forth idea sessions to sketch out concepts. Then you'd go back, and that can inform something. You sketch that out, refine, and then eventually you break it into full rules. And you're always calling back as you're doing that kind of slow breakout and expansion, from like a sentence of an idea to here's a paragraph of what that would look like to here's the full rules text or whatever. You're always referring back to the guiding principles to make sure you're staying in line with that, right? And then you're always going back to the lore, and sort of that ends up becoming a sort of virtuous cycle, right? Battle Barn, she's got 2 copies, so I can give one to a friend. Oh, that's awesome. Great. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's really, really cool. Timothy Hales, has going through this process changed how you approach Warhammer Weekly and analyze GW game design? No. No. I mean, like, because I used all the same principles I talk about on the show when I was writing this, right? Like, I've talked before about the nature of design versus development and how we work, and that's exactly what we did here. I mean, we just implemented the same thing. Now, I have no money, like I am compared to GW. I mean, I'm not living hand to mouth or whatever, but I'm just a normal person. And, so like they can obviously throw a lot more money and should have a much more robust version of the process than I do. But I mean, I implemented the best practice version of whatever it is I can do, right? That Adam and I could do at the scale we operate at, right? And, little things like there's a couple of typos we missed in there. We're going to fix that in the PDF and then re-upload the PDF. And the cool part about going through Wargames Vault is that when we re-upload the PDF, you can all just download the new one, and ta-da, you'll get a digitally updated fixed copy. Look at that. So there you go. That's a cool thing. So when we re-upload and fix the little typos, which we're collecting, there's not that many of them, but there's a few in there. If you already bought the game, no issue. You've got the new copy right in your hands. So there you go. Battleborn says your game is the #1 best-selling game on the website. That's awesome. I couldn't believe it. Like I'm really, really thrilled that people have responded and love this game. I really loved writing this. I really loved playing this. Everybody we playtested with had a ton of fun. And like last night before we hit the launch button, I will openly admit there's always this last minute moment of terror that you're like, is this going to fall in its face and absolutely no one's going to care? Like, that is the voice of doubt and then failure that lives in the back of your mind, right? And that was weighing heavily on me as I went to bed last night. And, the response today from the community has been overwhelmingly positive and amazing. I'm so glad people are liking the rules and really getting into it. So, we're just going to keep going onward, upward, try to provide, like I said, more videos, more stuff, more information. I really want to make sure that if people are interested in this, that I'm here to support you 100%, answer your questions, get anything you need in your hands, that kind of stuff, to really make this as enjoyable of an experience as I can for you. That's what ultimately my job is as the creator of this game, along with Adam. Donnie says, I would like to do a cabal that is themed around a new council, so all my guys would be like equals. Is there a way to do that besides just rotating my leader? Well, councils still have leaders, so like you could do it thematically where, there'd be slight differences in their power. But that would be a great Lords of Hell warband where they're all Imperious. And I would point out that there is actually a title. So we haven't talked about the title system much, but I'm really actually excited about it. So there is a title system in the campaign game. It's right here. It's in step 4. And you gain titles by, they're like achievements in a game, right? And this is something I was really thrilled because I when we came up with this, I really liked this idea. Not that achievements are some new idea, but how to implement this I liked. This was another one of the things I really enjoyed. And you know, you gain titles when you achieve certain things in game or over the course of multiple games or whatever. And one of the, you actually can gain a title called Usurper. Just gotta find it. Where's it at? Usurper, there you go. The non-leader slays a friendly leader twice over any number of games. This demon becomes the leader, uses the leader advancement, and your current leader is removed from the warband as per the Cull the Weak ability. So on and so forth. And they also steal all their stuff, so you get all their relics. So, like, you can have little internal power struggles where somebody's like, long live the king, and then, you know, throws down there. You can Mufasa your leader or whatever. So you could go for, you could even maybe explore stuff like that over the course of the game. So there you go. But you can bring your other people up and make them councils of equals by eventually just, you know, passing your relics to them or essences to them, and that will really even them out. Okay, Ray, what model is on page 19, bottom right corner? I don't know. Let's find out. Oh, this guy? Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, this. So that is the creature caster Dracon. That's actually the one I painted, and then that is the paint over by Artist Empire. It blew my mind when I saw that picture. You should see it in like full size and all that. It's great. But I mean, obviously we're using it as the scaled down art. But Artist Empire does these. He's the one who did like this art. Like these are all minis that he just does Photoshop and does magic over top of. I have no idea how he does it. The man is a sorcerer. That's the best I can say. So there you go. I pronounce it Patreon. I have no idea how it's supposed to be pronounced. I pronounce everything wrong. So all of my Necron robots are going to head to Patreon. Power Hungry 5000. Hey Vince, excited to get a book. I have some creature caster demons begging to be used. I may make a whole bound out of the cheaper ones. Hey, that's like exactly. My warbands were made of a lot of creature caster demons. So there you go. Donald Kelly, in the narrative, are demons more people as opposed to weird abstractions? I'm thinking more geometric and multi-organed, like the more literal descriptions of biblical angels. Yeah, in the narrative, demons take all shapes, sizes, and forms. So they are not. Some are quite human. Some actually pass as human and will or can take human form and will go to the mortal world as such. They're very traditional, like humanoids. Some are nightmare horror creatures of goo and tentacles and eyeballs with teeth inside them, right? Like there's so like anything like that can work. That's one of the reasons we wanted to make this miniature agnostic. I think it wasn't just, hey, let's make a miniature agnostic game so we don't have to use miniatures. It was, hey, the concept of demons as a broad concept is so wide. It's the perfect miniatures agnostic game because what does a demon look like? Biblical geometric shapes, Japanese oni, a head with its intestines hanging out of it that floats around, a floaty tortured spirit ghost. Sure. Right? Like any of that could work because that's all they are self-actualizing manifestations of tortured souls, right? What does that look like? I don't know, but you can define for yourself, I would say. Axanix, am I doing it wrong on the Frostgrave demons, or do you really have to carve a bit of the chainmail away to attach their tails? You'd want to ask Adam. I haven't assembled them. He assembled a bunch of them, but you might. I don't know. I haven't put them together. Okay. Donnie Rongo, did Mordheim inspire you for the campaign buff, debuff, rewards, etc.? Oh yeah, amongst many other games like that. But yes. Mordheim was a seminal influence in my life. I think Tomas Pruinen, or how I'm probably butchering his name, fantastic guy, is like really created one of the all-time greats in that game. And one of the things I always loved was that in the nature of the sort of post-game effects, there was both weal and woe, and that's something that was absolutely in my head to create here. But there's other games I've played that had similar effects. I like when you can win for losing, or lose for winning, and I think that those are that helps keep things sort of interesting overall. So it was very much in my mind as I created those campaign effect charts, right? Let's see. Torn between a band of spider demons or Hieronymus Bosch type demons. Bishop says, why not both? There you go. Andrew Fairbanks says, y'all are number 6 on the Google search result. That's awesome. That's great. Anyone who has ever worked on anything ever has that feel. Oh, yeah, talking about the cresting of the wave. Yep. What can I go for it? What are your long-term goals with designing these games with Atoms? Side hustle, hobby, or launch into a new career? No, just a side. I don't know. Side hustle is probably the wrong word. Hobby is the right word. To make fun games that people will enjoy playing and get hopefully hours of fun with their friends out of. That's it. That's my motivation. Like, if you're trying to get rich, this is the wrong career. Okay, like this, it's not the goal. No, I really love writing games. I love sharing it with people. I hope people have fun playing them. That's pretty much my motivation. I like doing it. Adam likes doing it. It's fun to work with Adam, honestly, to have an excuse to hang out with him. He's a good friend and a really great guy. And it's just great to have an excuse to do stuff like that. And if we can do that and get people really jazzed and having a good time with their friends, I mean, I think that's why I love creating games. Like, it's a pretty wonderful feeling. Vince, do you think this game would be friendly towards homebrewing rules? Oh, yeah, man. 100%. Yes. Yes. I mean, we talk multiple times in there and have multiple call outs on the side of, like, if there's stuff you want to change or homebrew your own rules for, go nuts. Like, we are very explicit about that. Yes. Okay. Is there a Discord for this? Not at the moment, I don't think, but because I think Adam has a Discord like for his Patreon people, so I don't have a Discord or maintain a Discord, so no at the moment, but I don't know what the future will hold for that. It's a good idea. It's a discussion I can have with him. Emil, hello Vince. I love the idea behind this game. Have you ever played or are familiar with the miniatures game called Hell Dorado? If so, was that ever an influence? Yes, I am familiar with it. I don't necessarily think it was an influence any more than anything else, but it's a cool game. Like, I like a lot of that kind of stuff. Weird West and Demonic West and Dark West and all of those, and just Wild West, indeed. Concepts are all really fun to me. So I like all those games. I don't know that any of them were a direct influence on this in any kind of way I could point to, but I mean, they're all up in my brain, right? So I mean, we're all a mishmash of 1,000 different influences. I've played a lot of miniature skirmish games. I really like them, and so I'm sure they're all swirling around up there somewhere. Alan Thomas, there is no title the natural one for the guy who only rolls ones. I am disappointed. That is a missed opportunity. Because you could have then introduced him as, I'm the one natural one. Yeah, absolutely. Missed. You can Mufasa your leader. Sold. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Oh, Artist Empire's in the chat there. Hey, buddy. Yeah, I mean, like, his Twitter's in the earlier thing. Everybody should be following him. I mean, it's crazy. You can watch his real-time videos of how he does it. I'm pretty sure the man's actually a sorcerer, some kind of wizard or magician who has tapped into dark spirits. I mean, he shows you doing it in Photoshop and clicking things. I believe that's all just for show, and he is using and calling upon some form of dark magic to do what he does. Okay. Travis, are the miniatures in the art miniatures or art of some kind? Great looking real estate, by the way. Okay, so yeah, that's what I was just talking about. So Artist Empire, this is like one of his pieces right here. This is, and there's others that are in the book itself. All the things you see that look like miniatures, so like this, right? Those are miniatures. They are just miniatures. Like, there you go. That one we looked at earlier. Those are miniatures painted by Adam and I that then Artist Empire took and worked in Photoshop and adds like the background to and the atmospherics and the lighting and the textures and the dust, and it's incredible. And it really like sets the thing in a place and a world. And so that's all Artist Empire doing that work. But yeah, that's just a real miniature, just a straight up picture snapped and then sent over where the magic happens. Let's see. Donnie Rongo, during design, did you think about the Cabals being a point buy build your own, or is it too hard to make it truly modular and not actually linear? During design, did you think about the Cabals being a point buy build your own? Donnie, I'm not sure what you're asking. Do you mean like where the demon itself, like you would build the demon out of a point buy system? Like, so instead of picking a Slaughter Fiend or a this thing or a that thing, I could point buy my way into the demon that I wanted. If that's what you're asking, which I think it might be, I'll answer that question. The answer is, in that regard, it just became too... I did have a bit of a thought about it, but the problem was mathematically that system just adds so much complexity to testing. It's so easy for something to accidentally break, or for me to miss something, or for a permutation not to come out in playtesting. So using a set number of variables in the prefabricated demons that could get modified really helped a lot in making the game a more smooth experience, right? So that's what I would say. Okay. Emil, thank you again yourself and Adam for creating this game. Super excited to pick up a copy and print. Awesome. Yes, those Manic Succubi. Yep, Chad Roberts. Sorry I missed the start of this. So in the future, is there any intention of introducing an alternate faction that isn't demons for those that may not like that idea? So plans, no. Thoughts, yes. We have talked about potential expansion for this game. That doesn't mean it will ever happen. It might never happen, but we have ideas. It will depend on our time and what we decide to work on next. And yes, if we go in the direction we have discussed, it would introduce the concept of alternate things. So alternate not demons for you to explore. How about that? So yes, absolutely, Chad. Great question. Jason Robertson, late to the party. Has he answered what size bases are used with this rule set? Great question, Jason. So the answer is we have a recommended range of bases in all of the different demons. So for example, your minion demons can be on 25, 32, or 40 mil is our recommended range. You can go above or below that. It's only our recommended size. That's where you're going to kind of get the sort of best experience. But again, like with most things, we say, hey, you know, this is your game and you're going to get what you want out of it. And you can see like right there at the top, suggested base size happens at the top of every entry. So for example, your Devout can be on anything from a 32 up to a 60. Doesn't really matter if they're rounds or squares. It's pretty irrelevant. We did play test with both. Nothing really changed. I tend to prefer rounds because I just like round bases. But yeah, you can go either way. So there you go. Basically, it is round bases, and the sizes are... Most of your demons are going to be on 25 through 40s, with a couple of them basically either in the same range or having the ability to go to either 50 or 60. Okay. Let's see. Donnie Rongo, yes, I answered the question. I got a C in English and an A in math. Hey, no problem, buddy. It's all good. I got what you were going for. Let's see. Brandon S., here's the real question. Are we going to be seeing hobby cheatings on how to convert sick covens? You know, if I was good at this, if I was, like, good at this whole YouTube thing, that would be the video I teed up for tomorrow, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Wouldn't just any basic common sense marketing person have teed that up for the video for tomorrow? Sure. Like that would be common sense 101, right? Anybody who's trying to be successful would do that. That is not the video coming tomorrow. You know, yes, Adam is going to be streaming on Twitch talking about demons and making up his cabal and stuff like that. We actually kind of outsourced it to a point. So we sent copies out to like 2+ Tough Doug, to Dana Howell, and to a few others. And I know that they're going to be making some videos about doing cabals. And so there will be content out there of people doing it. So there's going to be lots of other people who are probably better at producing content than me, who are going to make, converting your cabal for Reign of Souls, or painting something for Reign of Souls. Good lord, Reign in Hell. It's getting late, folks. I'm sorry. I've been talking for like an hour plus straight. So there's going to be, hopefully, I hope, fingers crossed, people making content about the game. We talked to several content creators in advance, and got the game and the PDF in their hands so they could take a look and decide what they wanted to do, and just kind of worked with them and said, like, if you're interested, if you think the game's good, do something. If not, we totally understand. Like, we said nothing is contingent on this. We expect nothing. If you like it, if you think it's good and you're going to enjoy it, cool, do something. If not, no skin off our nose. We don't mind at all, right? Okay. Donnie says getting in John to do something for Rain and Hell. He paints weird stuff anyways. He's one of the people, so we'll see what he does. And so yeah, Bishop said, I know you sent it 2+ Tough. Any plans to collab with other YouTubers? Yeah, so yes. We did send it to other YouTubers as well. There's a whole cadre of content creators who we thought would be interested in this, and we tried to get it in their hands, to do something for it. So okay. Oh, cool. Efren shouted out for people looking for STLs, given some cool names there. Yep. Very good. Let's see. Yeah, I caught up with all the questions. Awesome. There we go, folks. Okay. Well, AF says Slod Demons. Slod Demons would be cool. Slod are awesome. We all know that. Living that Slod life. Yes. Slod Demon Frogs are scary as all get out. If anybody has any final questions, I'll hang out to here for just another moment, and we will. I will answer those. If not, what I'll say is thank you everybody for hanging out for all of this time. I'm glad to see my changes to the chat kept the evil bots away. So I apologize that we ended on such a sour note earlier, everybody. But thank you for hanging out with me here, asking so many great questions. About the game, about the process, about how I think about this, and everything like that. I hope I answered everything to your satisfaction. As always, if you do think of more, you can ask in any of the videos. I will answer all of the comments. Yeah, and that's where we're at. So I heard Brian S says I heard Slaw Demons. No, not Coleslaw Demons. Slod. Slod Demons or Slade. Much like the early 90s R&B star Sade. So there you go. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate all your awesome questions. Like I said, if you think of more, drop them down there. Hit like on this if you did. Subscribe, obviously, if you haven't already. Just so you know, we are going to dedicate Warhammer Weekly this week to Reign in Hell. So this Wednesday, Warhammer Weekly will be Reign in Hell Weekly. Little change of pace. We're going to have Adam, myself, and Tyler on discussing the game. And we're going to go through it a little more thoroughly in that show. Like, really, instead of just... We'll still absolutely do Q&A, but we're going to kind of break things down. Actually, like, do a structured walkthrough of the book so people can get an idea there. Like I said, watch this weekend. Adam will have the kind of sample round play video going out. So we're going to... Lots more content coming. There you go. So, awesome, everybody. Thank you very much. Like I said, hit like, subscribe. Look forward to chatting with you more about this. And as always, we'll see you in hell. Bye-bye, everyone.